Hello and welcome to the Pawn Pro podcast. Today I'm super honored to have Scott Tiemann on with us. Hey Scott.
Hey, Tally, how you doing? Super honored. That's not something I hear. That's great.
Yes.
Love that.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Before we kick off, let's just give everybody an intro. Who are you? How'd you get into this industry? Where are your stores?
Okay, that's an interesting question. Let's see. I'm Scott Tiemann, obviously, Southern California, born and raised here. Let's see, I have three stores. My big store is Central Megapon in Ontario, California. I have Westminster Megapon and Azusa Megapon. All three stores are doing great. I got in the pawn business back in 1994. My first day in the shop was the day that OJ ran. So that was a very interesting day.
Eventful.
Middle class white kid and, customers coming in cheering on OJ. I was completely dumbfounded. I'd never experienced anything like that. It's like, he's the bad guy. He's running from the cops. What's going on here? But, everybody has a different view on society. So it was,
Yeah.
it was an interesting day. So how I got started in pawn, let's see. I've had a series of glamorous jobs leading up to pawn. Not really. Let's see. I started as a paper boy at 14, and then my mom didn't like those hours, me out at 4:30 in the morning riding my bicycle around town when hungover construction guys are going to work and the true drunks are really just getting home. So she didn't like that idea, and she was a school teacher. So she got me what she thought was a better job, and that was a janitor's assistant at her school where she taught. So that very glamorous.
That's good. That's transferable into the pawn industry because,
Well,
I'm sure you've been janitor a few times before.
oh, for sure. I've scrubbed the toilet plenty of times. Let's see. From there, I went to the grocery store for a little bit when I was 16. I could get a real job on my own. Did that for a couple of years, and then I went into construction for a little bit. I was working for a house flipper, an old attorney guy who was buying homes. He'd send me in there to fix them up and make them habitable again. From there, he was an older guy. He was slowing down and didn't have as much work for me, so I needed a job. And a friend of mine just at that time was running a pawn shop for a very successful pawnbroker here in California, Mike Wall, down in Wilmington. Mm-hmm. And he had this satellite store in Fontana, and I went to work there with David, his son-in-law. And just me being me, I love knowledge and learning, and I just wanted to know everything. I wanted to be the best I could be. So I became David's right hand, and very soon it's like he would take a day off and it's like, Scott, we need this done. So I just instantly just kind of had that role. From there, went on to run a couple stores for them, Michael and then David. When David went out on his own, I ended up back with him. So I've worked in probably at least a half dozen different stores just for those two guys over the years. And then, let's see, I started to burn out a little bit, working 60, 70 hours a week as a store manager and, no work-life balance. So when I started to buy my first house, the realtor said, hey, you'd be really good at this job. So I ended up getting my real estate license and did that for a few years. I still worked in the pawn shop to maintain some health insurance. David was very good to me, and hey, just come in and work and I'll just pay your health insurance bill for the family. And that was great. And then 2006, I saw the writing on the wall with the economy and the housing market. So I said, I'm going to go back to pawn. At this time, I was a real estate genius. I thought I had the greatest guy in the world at investing in real estate. I bought my first house, a little basic 3-bedroom house. It was like $126,000, which is, can't find that in California anymore.
No,
so I was able to fix that one up, with my previous experience and, made some money on that and rolled it into the next house and paid about $300 for that one. A couple years later, it appraised for $635,000. Again, I am a freaking genius at real estate. But at that point, So I did a second mortgage at that time, cashed out all of my equity, and I went and bought my own store.
In a way, everything kind of prepared you to be a pawn owner and operator. Even your early jobs and early where work led you kind of put you in a really good spot to be able to fix up a store. And
my sister will say I was a pawnbroker from a very young age because I loaned her $20 one time and she didn't pay me back. So I went and took the TV out of her room. You're not going to pay me. I'm taking it
always been in you. Yeah.
Right. So
and talk to us about your big store because it's a big store.
It's 6,400 square feet. It's not massive, but we do quite a bit of business out of there. Yeah, I bought that in 2006. Yeah, so it's been, geez, already 18 years since I've been an owner, and I have 3 stores now. So the
Was it
big
always
store,
your dream to go from 1 to 3?
no, I always wanted a second store just because I like redundancy. All of our systems, I love redundancy. Even
Hmm.
from internet services, of course, with Bravo, we have love that redundancy for ISPs and
Yeah.
just having everything dialed in. And where were we going? I'm sorry, what was the question?
1 to 3.
Oh, 1 to 3. Oh yeah, I was just wanted the second store, just for that little nest egg. Store one burns down, and I still have a way to make
Yeah.
money. But then, I got my second store from my sister. She was getting divorced, and it was all bad. And I had financed a lot of that, so they owed me a bunch of money. So they just said, "Here's the keys." And it's like, "Oh, great.
1 to 2.
Now what do we
Like
do?"
that. Yeah.
So we turned that store around quite a bit. It's still not. It's my Azusa store. It's still my smallest one. Um, yeah, and then from there, Kurt Chapman was a fellow California Pawnbrokers Association board member, and he wanted to sell his store, and I always liked his store, and he said, "Hey, let's come up with a plan to get you this store." So we did that for Westminster, store number 3, and that one is doing very, very well. It's already more than doubled the business that Azusa is doing,
Wow.
so that one's great. Still growing, and
Would you go 3 to 4?
I would with the right opportunity. But over
Yeah.
the last few years, we've had so much growth, and I'm not a guy that has a lot of financing lined up like the Sam Shakats of the world. I
Yeah.
tried to work with his people. It's such a slow process. So financing would definitely benefit things. I know you guys are working with the company
Yeah.
to get us some financing. They're not quite ready
Yeah.
for California, but I'm anxious. I'm
Trust. Yeah.
waiting. So yeah, it's really just a matter of finances. We've put a couple $1 million in the back room over the last couple of years, so
Mm.
it's.
Yeah. It's substantial.
If we're going to talk about any challenges later, that's probably my biggest challenge is keeping up with the growth. Being 100% self-funded.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah. That's a
again,
challenge.
first world problem. It's a great problem to
It's a
have,
good
but
problem.
cash
Yeah.
flow is you know can get a little challenging at
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. So you worked for another family, and then it sounds like they were amazing as far as being an employer. How did you take some of that and I guess ingrain it into being your own operator? What were your takeaways from working for somebody else and then launching into your own company?
Really, just keeping it simple, just doing the right things every day, and just being consistent. Just in your messaging to the customers, just the way you qualify somebody, and just again, you wake up and do the right thing every day. Good things tend to happen. You
Yeah.
make poor choices, bad things happen. So yeah, I mean, Mike Wall, he has a great store down in Wilmington. It's a huge place. It's an old department store. It's like 3 levels. It's amazing. And he definitely taught us the right way. A bit of an old school pawnbroker. I'm not really sure where he's at with technology these days, but he taught us the foundation very, very well.
Yeah. And so how then did you take that and roll that into your own store? Were there things that you decided, I'm going to do it that way, I'm not going to do it that way?
Well, I definitely did not try to reinvent the wheel in the beginning.
Yeah.
I had a roadmap that worked. I followed the roadmap. Of course, I've deviated a bit since I've had some success and trying some new
Right.
things, and constantly going to conventions and having software like Bravo, the right consultants. I'm a member of Jerry Whitehead's group, the focus group where we tour around
Yeah.
the country a couple times a year and just go to different stores and do that. Egal was amazing for me.
Yeah.
He's really what gave me the confidence to grow.
Yeah.
We were just the single store when I hired Egal, and again, he gave me the confidence to invest in like even the street sign. Just
Yeah.
little things like that. Just kept pushing me, and I'll do that later. I'll do that later. When financing is a little better, and he introduced me to like a Roy Margell at Least Tech Capital, and he financed my big street sign, and that's been
Cool.
amazing. Probably the best advertising we've done. Yeah, so that's
Yeah. What I find is like people that grow or that like some of the best pawnbrokers are just curious. Like they're just willing to learn more. Like they're never all the way leveled up. And when there's challenges, they seek solutions. It's not
Yes.
like sitting around waiting for something different to happen, on the same day. And I think investing in yourself and in your business, I mean, I've watched specifically like with consultants and with Yigal and with leadership training and things like that, just like how impactful that is.
It really is. And even conventions are huge. Yeah, you
Yeah.
see the class list or, all these kind of things like, well, yeah, maybe I'd benefit from that, but it's so much more than that. It's just getting there and talking to people. The best knowledge is in the bar, as you know. Just the
Yeah.
conversations had there when, people have a couple drinks, they start to talk a
Yeah.
little more and they start to give up the secret sauce of what's worked for them.
Yeah.
So just having those conversations has been amazing.
Yeah, if you went to one or two conventions every single year and you actually executed on an excellence level one thing that you learned, over the course of 5 years, that would be 10 like really amazing business decisions that you were able to execute, which is significant.
Right.
Talk to me about getting involved in associations and when you started doing that and why you do that and why you go to shows and things like that.
I really got involved mainly because, like I said, I really like knowledge. I want to be the best.
Yep.
I don't always have the drive to be the best, but I want all the knowledge. So I have that internal struggle to where I know I should be doing this, but I'm not doing it. So that creates a little bit of that nonsense. But yeah, just going to the shows. The first 5-10 years in business when I was working for other people, it's like, why am I going to go to a pawn show? I don't want to hang out with a bunch of crusty old pawnbrokers. It's just
Yeah.
yeah. I myself had some of the Hollywood perception. It's like, well, we're not those people, but I assume everybody else is.
Right.
So just being exposed to it and going to my first show, I really just wanted to go to the trade floor. I didn't care about the classes, the networking, any of that. I just wanted to see the latest and greatest technology, tools, all that kind of stuff. So that's how I started going. And I realized, wow, there's some really, really good people in this business. I have some great friends today that I've, fellow owners.
Yeah.
And just having that camaraderie and, as a business owner, not all of your friends understand the struggles you go through.
Yeah.
They're working their job, they're making minimal amounts of money, and their struggles are different.
Yeah.
And just being with like-minded people that have the same struggles and being able to have those conversations and learn from them and just it'd be sounding boards for me and just be that much better all around.
I totally agree with that. And that's something like as a CEO and like I didn't really get CEO coaching or find CEO community until maybe in the last 5 years.
Right.
And I feel like I was late to that. Like I wish I would have started and found that sooner because it's really like it gives you confidence and it's also it's just nice to know that like your problem isn't just unique.
Right.
And somebody else has solved it. Just
Yes.
knowing that like a really hard problem is solvable sometimes is all you need to know. Like, okay, then I can go solve it. And so I think conventions are really, really awesome for that. And the classes are really awesome. I like to go and watch other speakers and like everything's transferable. Like you think, okay, this is somebody talking about pawn data. I'm in software. But it's always transferable. What people are like looking for and how people hire and comp employees and like all of these kinds of things as a business owner, they translate. And it's really time well spent, I think, going to the classes and networking with people. But yeah, I love going to shows. So many like personal relationships there now.
And Igal definitely taught me that every problem is a leadership problem. So stop complaining about your people and do what you need to do to make this right.
Yeah. Yeah. I have one person on my team that whenever she's on my exec team and whenever anything goes poorly, the first thing she always says is like, this is an us problem. And I'm like, it is an us problem. And so, yeah, everything starts with how you're leading and managing and the time that you're putting into your people. And probably everything can be solved with those three things.
Right. And Igal definitely introduced me, not in person, but to Jocko Willink, who's a
Yeah.
Navy SEAL turned
Yeah.
business coach, and that
Uh-huh.
guy, extreme ownership, everything is your fault.
Yeah.
That was a big eye opener for me because I
Yeah.
love to just, oh, that's just freaking employees. They're not doing what they need to do, but
Yeah.
without ever looking in the mirror and realizing, well, yeah, it's your fault.
So that was a shift in leadership style. How would you consider your leadership style now?
That's a good question. Let's see. I definitely try to empower people. It actually started by me just not really wanting to do it. So I just said, you do this and you're going to struggle. And sometimes it was just, well, I pay you, go figure it out.
Yeah.
And I realized that wasn't necessarily the way. And now I just try to be more supportive and get the team the training that they need, even if it's from an outside source. Like my son works for us. He's 23. He has aspirations of taking over one day. And he just completed Eagle's Unlock the Leader program. I just got a
Cool.
certificate texted to me just this morning. I was like, oh, that's so cool.
That's awesome. And what about your management style? Similar management style?
Yeah, I try to be absentee because, 30 years into this, I really try to not, well, kind of step away, but also make sure the team has the tools that they need to be successful.
Yeah.
My leadership style, I used to be a seagull, which was terrible. I'd come in, I'd flap my wings and shit all over everything and then leave.
Yeah.
Just like a seagull does at the beach
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
So,
They see you
I
coming
realized,
and they're like, oh God, here we go.
right. So I'm definitely trying to be more calm. I'm very impatient when I want something done. I may take time to make my decision. I try to be very analytical and make the right choice, sometimes a little too analytical. But then once I make the decision, I expected everybody to be right up to speed with me. It's like,
Right.
I've spent a month thinking about this, and
Yeah.
I'm giving you the concept today. They're not at the same point where I am,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I would get frustrated with that, and then I would start acting up and get tense and face would turn red. And it's like, damn it, why aren't you guys doing what
That's true
is
in
in my head?
relationships too. Like in all things, in all
Right.
communicating kind of in with kids and with raising kids, I think too. Like when you think about something for a long time and then you finally communicate it, the expectation is like the person that you're talking to should be exactly where you are,
Right.
even though you've
And they're
had
not.
like a million imaginary conversations in your head and you've thought and pro-conned everything. It's like, why don't you see this how I do on this very first day that I'm
Yes.
introducing this idea to you?
I was the king of having covert contracts with people. They
Yeah.
had no idea that I expected this from them.
Yeah.
And then I would get frustrated that they weren't doing what they were supposed to do, but I never
Right.
properly communicated to them that this is what needed to be done and why. The biggest thing is understanding why.
Yeah.
When they understand why, then they can get on board. If you're just telling them like a dictator, you need to do this, you need to do this, you get half effort, like they don't even understand the job. They don't understand why you want it done, and then it's just not done to your expectation. But when you can paint the picture for them and say, this is where we're trying to go and why we're trying to go there, and how it's going to be better for you in the long run, then you get much better engagement from your team.
I think that's so important because some people feel like, I think I've watched leaders, it's like my decision, therefore I'm going to roll it out, and like you just get on board. Which really doesn't create a very good culture, first of all, and it doesn't allow for people to like think and be able to provide feedback. If you don't know the why you're doing something, it's really hard to have an opinion on something. And I think that's a huge mistake that leaders, I guess, in leadership, I guess, is just rolling
sure.
things out without explaining the why or even like how things tie. Like one of the things that I notice sometimes in meetings is I'll notice we'll roll something out, but nobody's tying like why we're doing this to where we're trying to go. It's like, it seems almost too simple to explain it. So we just don't.
Right. Exactly.
Right? And it's like, how do you expect people to draw the line all the time? They haven't been in the conversation. They haven't been in every meeting. They don't know how it ties. And so it doesn't like, they don't know how to impact it. And it doesn't matter to them because they don't know where they're going. So I think that's a really good takeaway. And I think the covert, I think you called it covert contractor, just like not communicating clearly expectations and then being frustrated by them is
When
a
they don't even
really
know the expectation.
when they don't even know the expectations, and that's really common. Like the worst feeling is like holding somebody accountable and they're like they didn't even know that
You didn't
they
even
were
tell
supposed
me
to
about
do it.
that. Right.
That's like for me the ultimate like look in the mirror kind of situations, in situations where I surprise my employees with stuff that they're like I didn't even know that, and I'm like, whoa, that is a big miss. Like, I'm
Right.
sorry, I had no idea that you didn't know. But it's easy to do, and I think it's easy to do when you're running a business and you've got a million things on your mind, and sometimes putting the effort into the employees is kind of the last thing that you do, which is not the right thing to do.
Yes. And we definitely aren't great at the training piece. I mean, we could definitely be better. We
Yeah.
try, but we get busy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, sometimes we get that mindset of we're too busy. We're too
Yeah.
busy to be this busy, and then people just we'll do that tomorrow. We'll do that tomorrow, and then it never gets
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. Well, I think having a clear view of like where things could improve is always, better than saying, we're good. Everything works really great here. There's nothing that we really need to work on. Training is something that at Bravo, I mean, same thing, right? Like training text, training process, training new product. Somebody today said, hey, when's check printing coming out? And I like wanted to bang my head against the wall. Like, it came out last month.
Oh,
How'd you
really?
miss it? Like, but the continuous training, like it's really hard, and it's hard to bring everybody up to speed and get everybody doing it like a good way.
Sure.
That part's never ending, I think.
Right. Even just some of the basics, like we forget to tell the people. All right, the old school mindset that I was trained on is if you can make money on it, take it. Doesn't matter if you've got 12 of them on the wall or if you've never seen this thing
Yeah.
before. Both spectrums. It's like if there's a market for it, like eBay's been huge for the pawn industry,
Right.
giving us an outlet for these oddball,
Yeah.
unique, even like a
Yeah.
specialty tool or something. You put it in your showcase for $50 and sit there for 10 years, or you can sell it on eBay, for $500 because one guy in podunk nowhere is looking for this
Yeah.
thing and nobody has it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's been amazing, and just we've gotten away from that a little bit. I have again tried to step away, so I'm not there every day. So some of those little things, like I think we're passing on some things that we probably shouldn't be, just
Yeah.
because I haven't properly trained the team and said this is a moneymaker, and
Right.
but that's not in our scope. They don't
Yeah.
necessarily understand that it's not all about jewelry and tools and electronics or guns or whatever.
Yeah.
And we do sell guns, which is a little unique in California,
It is.
which creates its own challenges, all that paperwork.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just doing the right thing every day and consistently qualifying. Finding reasons to say yes is a massive one. I hear about other stores, or even GameStop. I go to GameStop occasionally. My kid wants a new game for Christmas or whatever, so I'm in there and they buy things across the counter, like a game system or whatever. And,
Yeah.
and listening to them, it's like, okay, we'll give you $60 for this. Okay, whatever. That it's an older unit. That price is probably reasonable. But you don't have the power cord. We're gonna have to deduct $30 for that. You don't have a remote. We're gonna deduct $40 for that. So if you want us to buy it, you're gonna have to give us $10.
Yeah.
What? I actually heard that conversation inside of
What?
GameStop. So it's like
Yeah.
those people are looking for reasons to say no.
Yeah.
Instead, it's like, okay, maybe discount a little bit, or you pay extra for the extra games and controllers or whatever.
Yeah.
And, so it's just like teaching that. It seems like common sense. I shouldn't have to teach that, but common sense isn't that common anymore, and people
not
don't know
common.
our industry, and they don't understand
Yeah.
the concept of our industry.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing, well, maybe not the biggest, but a huge one is look for reasons to say yes.
Yeah.
It's really not
I was going
complicated.
to ask you advice for a new pawnbroker or for somebody just getting in the industry. Would that be the kind of bottom line, is find ways to say yes?
Find ways to say yes, and never write a loan based on your till.
Yeah.
If you're out of money, that's your fault. That's your problem. It's not the customer's problem. When you start lowballing people, they are going somewhere else, and they're going to tell everyone that they know not to go to your store. So never
I
make a
think that's
decision
really good
on
advice.
loans value based on your cash flow.
Yeah. That's really good. I think that like behavior, like what we're talking about, saying no versus saying yes, that can switch in a store really fast too. Like you're hearing the person next to you at the counter say something, and then all of a sudden you're saying the same thing, the person next to you, and then day over day that becomes the message. And that's
Or even
probably
worse, the
hard.
telephone game.
Yeah.
You say one thing
Yeah.
to one person, and then it trickles down, and it's a whole different message by the time it gets to the last person down the line.
Yeah.
Like the light switch mentality. I absolutely hate the light switch mentality. We don't take X, and we just
Oh.
turn that off. Like I've told my team, hey, let's get away. This is years ago. Let's get away from the cheap Walmart bicycles. There's no money in them. They take up so much space. So then a few days later, I hear somebody on my team saying, we don't take bicycles. It's like, what do you mean we don't take bicycles? Well, you just said, no, that's not what I said.
That resonates so much because we have conversations like that around features, for example. Like, 10 years ago we said we weren't going to do a feature and I never heard about it again. And it's like, if I bring it up, oh yeah, we get asked that all the time, but 10 years ago we said no. And it's like, what? How can that be? That kind of stuff happens all the time. And the way that you not just communicate, but then look for feedback, I think is really important in those things, because that can be a huge miss too.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, trying to be absentee, it's got some great benefits. Granted, my stress level's way lower. I'm not getting worked up over stupid little details.
Yeah.
But it is a dichotomy. You can swing too far in either direction. You can make yourself crazy in your store every day, micromanaging, or you can go too far the other way and no management, and then that's no better than micromanaging. So everything's a balance.
Everything's a balance. Wise words from Scott Tiemann. Everything's a balance.
I'm not as dumb as I look.
So much for coming on. I got to see you at NPA for a second, and I'm way too pregnant to have gone to Kappa, so I'm glad we got it.
I was going to ask, but I didn't know if that was proper to ask those kinds of questions.
It's okay. Yeah, it's proper. Any day, kind of.
Great. So how far along are you? When's the due date? What are we having?
9 months. 9 months, a few weeks. Boy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Got a name picked out?
Mac.
Hey, there you go.
There you go. Not too original there. That was like a name from when I was like a little girl. Like, if I ever have a boy, I'm going to name him Mac. So here we are.
So is it going to be Mac?
Yes. I'm
wow.
just a one-party baby. No, my husband's last name is Hammond, so it'll be Mac Hammond. Okay. That would be too many Macs. We've got, we don't need one extra.
Sure.
Well, thank you. This has been awesome.
We're done already? Sheesh.
We're done. I know. I told you. 20 minutes flies by, but it's been 27. So
wow. Okay.
We even went over.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great to talk to you, Tally. Always a pleasure.
Thanks.